Hey! Hello, fellow Roblox enjoyer. I have a question for you. Have you ever hopped on the Roblox front page looking for a nice shooty game to slay other Roblox characters in, and you just can't find it? Like nothing's giving you the rush of taking another Roblox character's life and taking all of his loot. Well, that's where I come in. You know, I've had the same question as you, fellow Roblox enjoyer. But unlike you, I'm actually gonna do something about it. So come along with me and let me explain my wonderful game idea. So this is how the game is gonna go down. What you do is you buy your own guns, ammo, and armor, and then you spawn into this map. Once you spawn in said map, you go around looking for loot, like this cat here. But there's a small problem here. Other people want the loot too. Hey man, get away from my cat, man. I want this cat, man. Give me this loot, man. Now once these people ethically deal with you and take your loot, they can extract in certain places to get home, where they can buy more guns and hurt more people. Now other games may have done this idea before, but nobody's gonna do it like Extraction. Yep, that's the name of the game, Extraction. It's pretty tongue-in-cheek, but you come up with a better name. I don't care. You know, small disclaimer, I actually don't have much experience with game development, but you know, it's just a couple of blocks. How hard could it be, right? So I did what any sane person would do, started a new base plate and added a cylinder. I then decided that cylinder was too smooth, so I made this cylinder with grass on top. I then decided that cylinder was a little lonely, so I joined it with these other cylinders to make a cylinder party. Now I was planning on making this the lobby area that you spawn into, that you buy stuff before you go into the actual map. Now I thought I turned out looking pretty okay, but this is my first build, so please don't judge me. So I decided to hop into it to give it a little test run, and of course I didn't anchor everything, bro. Why is everything floating around? What the? I also decided that the lighting looked terrible, so I changed it. And then I posed next to this noob to test it out. Look at that smile. Now I was done making kiddie stuff like a lobby, and decided to make something cool, like a gun. You know, it wouldn't be an FPS game without, you know, a gun, so I decided to make a Glock here, because it looked kinda easy. But boy was I wrong. The software I'm using to make these models is called Blender, and I swear Blender was made for people who memorize the entire dictionary, because look at this screen. Look how many buttons are there. Like, what do these all do? I don't know. So I come in here and I try to learn it and I have no clue what's going on. But eventually I kind of taught myself and started to piece together this Glock. And you know what? It ended up not looking too bad. So then I imported the model into Roblox. But then the question struck me. What would it feel like to be a bullet shot out of this gun? Turns out it's pretty fun. So with the gun and the lobby completed, I had the brilliant idea of combining the two and putting the gun in the noob's hand. I mean, look how threatening this guy looks. I wouldn't want to mess with this guy. But even though this noob looks really threatening with this gun, it doesn't really change the fact that this gun just does not work. And making a gun system sounds pretty hard, so I'm gonna just put that off for now and start making the map. Now for the map, I decided to go for an inner city vibe with an office as the main building. So I started by making the roads and the general layout that goes around the office before I started making the office. But then I was interrupted by something shiny that came on my screen. A modeler that joined my team modeled this diamond as the first loot piece from the game. So I shrunk it down and put this black outline around it, and I thought it looked pretty good. I then decided I was going to put a black outline around all of the loot in the game to differentiate it from the other items in the game. Going back to the map, I started working on the office in the center. Now due to the fact that I've never built anything serious in this game, it took me a long time to make the basic layout. But after many hours of putting blocks into different places, the office started to look like an actual building. But I decided it looked a little too dark inside of the office, so I started working on these windows to put around, to let some light in. And although the inside of the office still looked like a cardboard box, the outside is starting to look more like an office. But I had been working on the office for hours at this point, and I wanted to work at something else. The next thing I started working on was a new lobby, because I didn't really like the old one, and I also wanted to go to the beach, so I made it an island here. And the island looked a little bare, so I added this dock so that the players can have a way to get into the game. They'll just stand on the edge of this dock here and then be teleported into the game. I also added this shop from the free models so that I can implement a shop system later. I then added this invisible wall around the map so people can't fall in and drown, so I won't be liable for any injuries. My modeler then modeled this vase here, so I imported it into Roblox and put the black outline around it. And now I had 2 whole loot items in the game. Look how happy this noob is with his new 2 items. Hooray! After the models were imported, I shifted my focus to making this little health bar in the bottom right corner. But in order to make the health bar work, I have to do something that I'm flawless at and have never failed. Scripting. So to see if the health bar I scripted worked, I made this little block that does a random amount of damage to you when you click it. And luckily the block works, but unluckily, The health bar does not. It looks all ugly when you take damage. But luckily, because I'm a genius, I fixed it. And by fixed it, I mean made it look way worse. I mean, what did I do? What the heck? After that issue was fixed, I moved on to making the teleport system so that people can actually play the game. I made this little square platform for people to stand on so they can teleport. I also made this text that tells you how many players are in the lobby currently and how much time left until it starts. And after a lot of scripting magic, it started to work. I then thought the office looked a little too dark still, so I made these lights and spread them around so that it could be a little brighter in there. Since the map started coming together a little bit, I wanted to start implementing the item system so that people could pick up loot. The biggest part of this is the inventory system. This is where the server would keep track of the player's loot, armor, weapons, and equipment. So I got to work implementing the visual stuff into the game, and it actually ended up looking pretty good. I then implemented a system where you can press tab to open and close the inventory. I was trying to make a system that when you go into first person, you can still drag the mouse around, but when I was trying to get it to work, it just would not work. I also actually made it so when you open the inventory, your camera locks so you could just see yourself walking around. I really have no idea how I did this, but it's kind of cool, I guess. I then got the camera to lock and then the mouse to move around, but then it came with this weird side effect of me just spinning around and having a seizure. I have no idea what this was about. But because I'm a genius, I eventually figured it all out, and now the inventory opens and closes with no problems. But this is where I started running into some issues. You see, it started out great. I made these icons for the items, and then I made it so you can pick up the items and they show up in your inventory. But the real problem came up when I tried to implement the drag and drop system. You see, for some reason, when I dropped items into certain squares, they would just disappear, and I have no clue why. But then when you drag an item next to it, they would reappear. You see, I spent probably around 5 hours trying to figure out how to fix this, but I just could not figure it out. So I just decided that I was going to have to move on from the inventory system to focus on other parts of the game for now, and then come back to it later. I then decided to turn my focus back to making the game work. I started off by putting different spawn points around the map so that when the players teleport, they actually have something to teleport to. I then put a bunch of loot spawns on these tables scattered around the map so that the player has a reason to even teleport into the map. After that, I made these loot tables so that the loot would spawn randomly through all the spawns. After that, I improved the lobby system so that when the timer runs out, items spawn randomly throughout the map and the players all get teleported. I then hopped in game with my buddy to see if it would work, and it did not work. But thanks to my determination and willpower, eventually it actually did work, and I spawned into the map. And on top of that, all of the loot spawned in randomly throughout the spawns too. I did not expect it to work, but it did. Wow! But the game really wasn't a game without guns to shoot each other. So I went on the toolbox and found a bunch of free gun models to use for the game. But most of them just didn't work, and they just didn't do damage. And they were also pretty ugly. But eventually I found one that worked pretty alright, until I scripted my own gun system and replaced it. And with that, the game was kind of functional, and it was pretty fun, going around, getting loot and shooting each other. I mean, you can tell it's pretty bare bones, but the start is definitely there. So that's basically it for this first devlog episode, but a ton of stuff has happened since this point. But if you'd like to stay tuned with the game's development and even play test the game, then make sure to join the Discord linked in the description below. And subscribe.
Subscribe, 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 subscribe.